the vaccines has been a consolidated space. So there are not that many companies that are working in the vaccine space. You have a couple large companies, but you do have a crop of smaller companies using what I would argue would be newer technologies to help create vaccines. And if you look at, just broadly speaking, the development of vaccines among smaller companies versus larger companies, it's up about 5-fold. So there's only been about 5% increase in vaccine development in big companies, but it's up about 100% in smaller companies.
So this is, it's interesting because the industry dynamic that we've been focused so much on, at least since the Ebola scare, has been oncology, right? They're trying to find cancer cures, that sort of thing. It takes an outbreak like this to put the focus back on infectious disease. These smaller companies now become a big focus. What types of companies would you be looking for in this kind of environment?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because vaccines are unique in that you do see these outbreaks, and sometimes they're self-limiting, and which is why it took so long to get an Ebola virus, right, vaccine developed, because the outbreak went away before you could start testing the vaccine, and so you had to, employ some unique strategies. So I think, one of the most interesting things that's come to light is looking at messenger RNA or mRNA as a way to develop vaccines. It's basically telling the body, giving the body the protein instructions to the immune system on how to fight the virus, and that's a very different approach than what we've seen in the past, which is basically taking a piece of the virus, giving it to somebody in a weakened state, and letting the body form immune reaction around that.
One of the things that we've noticed is that it's the smaller, maybe micro, small, and mid-cap companies that tend to flourish in this kind of environment. They have niche expertise.
Correct.
But they're not the ones who can actually get the whole thing done. They're a small piece of a pie. Large tech, biotech has a part in this whole process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at vaccines in general, what you see is that there's been a lot of new technology infused into vaccines. So what you need to have is companies that can be nimble and react to things, and then companies that have the bigger infrastructure to be able to take vaccines all the way through development and commercialization. Think about it for a second, how many people you actually need to test if a vaccine is efficacious over a long period of time. That's something better suited to a bigger company than a smaller company.
Who are the large cap biotech and pharmas that you would be looking for in this kind of environment then?
So Merck, Glaxo, Sanofi, are the biggest vaccine manufacturers. There's about 5 vaccine manufacturers that control most of the market. Pfizer is another one. And then there's a company which was spun out of CSL called Sequira. And so those are probably the largest 5 companies. And then there are a handful of emerging development companies like Novavax, Moderna, which just announced a deal with the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Disease. But one of the things that's interesting to me is if you go back and you look at the Ebola scare, you had some small companies have very, very big and rapid price movements, and of that, not much came out of that. So you have to be careful about that.